Welcome, Packer family, to another episode of our West Coast Cheeseheads podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Mateo, and unfortunately, Joe wasn't going to be able to make the show today, but he did have some stuff to talk about in regards to our pre-trade deadline. So listen up, and here he is.
What's going on, West Coast Cheesehead family? Sorry I can't be there with you tonight. Mateo's holding down the fort, and I'm sure he's doing a great job. Wanted to come in here and talk a little bit about the trade deadline, it being tomorrow. We are recording on October 3rd, trade deadline being tomorrow, October 31st. Packers are in a pretty terrible situation right now, 2-5 for the season, and nothing really looks on the upside right now. So don't expect the Packers to be bringing in any reinforcements to help them get to the promised land this season. It's kind of a waste of a season, kind of a prove-it season for Jordan Love. So really look for the Packers to be sellers this season. There's two guys that I want to really focus on that the Packers could potentially move this trade deadline. One of them being A.J. Dillon and the other one being Preston Smith. Going into a little bit of A.J. Dillon, I really believe these last few games, the Packers have really been trying to increase his trade value, really not giving Aaron Jones too many snaps and giving A.J. Dillon the majority of the running back lead. Over the last few games, he's really kind of stepped it up a little bit in comparison to the first two games of the season. You look back at the games against Denver and the Raiders. Against the Raiders, he had 76 yards on 20 carries. Against Denver, he had 61 yards on 15 carries. Let alone his receiving yards. He's had 41 receiving yards against this last game in Minnesota, 34 against Denver. So has really stepped up a little bit over the last couple of weeks, has really increased his trade value a little bit. He is an unrestricted free agent next year as well, so the Packers don't have any control over him unless they were to assign him to an extension, which I don't see them doing considering they do have Aaron Jones locked up for next season at a pretty penny of $11 million. So really think that A.J. Dillon is definitely a potential to be moved at the trade before the trade deadline is over. Look for some of the top competitors out there, for top Super Bowl contenders out there to really hone in on A.J. Dillon, potentially pick him up as a backup running back. Second guy I want to go into is Preston Smith. Preston Smith, although he is locked up and on contract for a little while now, he is on contract for up until 2026. His contract is pretty steep, getting paid $1.1 million this year, $5.7 million next year, and $12 million the next two following years in 25 and 26. We have a lot of guys that we need to get contract extensions for. Trading Preston Smith can really free up some salary cap for us. And Preston Smith, he's had a pretty solid season. You know, he's been involved in the defense pretty often. With 5 total tackles against Minnesota. He's had 2 sacks against Minnesota, and he's coming off of a 3-game streak of sacks with 1 against the Raiders, 1 against Denver, and 2 against Minnesota. So has definitely stepped up his game and playing pretty solid, and he's definitely going to be a target for some of these Super Bowl contending teams. Look for Preston Smith and A.J. Dillon to get dished before the trade deadline for some pretty solid draft picks. Preston Smith could definitely bring back some draft picks. A.J. Dillon, he's got pretty low trade value just because he's not under contract for next season, so he'll bring back a draft pick, but not as much as Preston Smith. Look for these two guys to get traded before the Halloween deadline. And other than that, back to you, Mateo, to wrap up the episode.
Interesting stuff there, Joe, but yeah, I guess we'll see what ends up happening with this pre-trade deadline.
Star in Lambeau. This is Nixon. Oh, here he goes. My goodness.
They may not like the cold.
He's taking it the distance.
But they represent the green and gold.
Love to Watson. Going deep, has a man. It's caught. Watson is in. Touchdown, Green Bay.
Welcome to the West Coast Cheeseheads podcast.
This is a post-game episode, and I'll tell you what, listeners, it ain't going to be pretty, okay? First off, I want to say thank you to all of our listeners for constantly supporting us as we make things underway with the podcast. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe to be notified whenever new episodes are coming out. You can also find and follow us on Facebook at West Coast Cheeseheads Podcast, Instagram at WC Cheeseheads Podcast, or Twitter and TikTok at WC Cheeseheads. We are here to provide you with all information, anything and everything Packer related. We may not like the cold, but certainly still rep the green and gold. So, here we go, listeners. Final score in this game, 24-10. I was pretty close. I really was. I was pretty close in my pregame prediction on this. And I hate that I was actually pretty close, okay? My final prediction, for anybody that didn't watch our previous show, was 21-10. But I saw this coming, okay? I think all of us Packer fans out there saw this coming. But I didn't see it happening this way, okay? I thought that Jordan Love, once again, was just not going to have a great game. And by all means, okay, Jordan Love didn't really necessarily have a great game. So Jordan Love went 24 for 41, 229 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception, okay? And, you know, it wasn't a great game by him again, okay? There were a lot of missed throws that he had, okay? Underthrowing, overthrowing. But there were some throws that he had that were right on the money. I mean, there was one that he like sling passed and he was getting ready to go down. It looked like he was going to go down, but it looked like a really impressive throw. And, you know, I like it and I don't like it, okay? Right now, we don't necessarily care for showy Jordan Love. We just want to make sure that he can actually get the passes off, okay? But leading back into what I was saying, okay? Wide receivers had a lot of drops today. There were a ton of drops and plenty of, my key word, opportunities, okay? But it just didn't go our way. So going into Jordan Love's interception, now he threw the ball to Jayden Reed. That right there was actually a pretty good throw, okay? Jayden Reed was coming up with the ball. He just got it snatched away. And so I don't blame that on Jordan Love. It was there. Jayden Reed just couldn't hang on to the ball. And so I can't completely blame this game on Jordan Love. There are multiple reasons that we lost this game. Drop balls, penalties on both the offense and the defense. And, you know, the defense in themselves, you know. Joe Barry really showed himself in this game right here. He had those cornerbacks and safety playing deep, and it created a lot of opportunities, again, for Addison. You know, Addison was a key player in this game, and, you know, he ended up going 7 receptions for 82 yards. KJ Osborne was also another hidden gem in this game, 8 receptions for 99 yards. TJ Hawkinson, 6 receptions for 88 yards. Okay, there weren't a lot of key players on our side. Jayden Reed was our top receiver, 4 receptions for 83 yards. A.J. Dillon, 5 for 41. Now that goes to say a lot that Dillon over Watson, Wicks, Dobbs, Musgrave. I mean, we need our wide receivers to come up with some of these catches, and they just weren't doing it. Okay, now the next problem. Once again, Aaron Jones is in this game, and we do not utilize him for the run. Jordan Love had most yardage in carries for this game, okay? 4 times, 30 for 34 yards, but Aaron Jones, our leading running back, only had 7 carries in this game for 29 yards. Okay, that's not going to do it. We have Aaron Jones. Why are we not feeding him the ball, okay? It's frustrating. It's frustrating for me, as it's frustrating for all Packer fans that are out there. We need to start using Aaron Jones more in this game, okay? Overall, this game was, once again, just a complete disappointment, okay? And I'm not disappointed that this team is 2-5, okay? Because going into this season, I know I had high hopes, and that's all I had. I had high hopes for this team. But realistically, we knew that this was a very young team. Okay. And with a young team, there needs to come progression. That's what I was looking for. I was looking to see that this team could evolve into something special eventually down the line. And unfortunately, we haven't. We've actually started to decline ever since that loss to the Lions back in week 4. So something needs to change. Okay. I don't know if the answer is Jordan Love. I don't know if the answer is the play calling by Matt LaFleur. I don't know if it's Joe Barry. I don't know if it's upper management. But they need to figure out, okay? This organization needs to figure out how they're going to move forward and how they're going to continue to grow. Okay, I'm gonna leave it off with that. That's the end of this episode. Thank you all again so much for joining. We always truly appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe our channel. Be notified whenever new episodes are coming out. You can find and follow us on Facebook at West Coast Cheeseheads Podcast, Instagram at WC Cheeseheads Podcast, or Twitter and TikTok at WC Cheeseheads. We truly appreciate it and thank each of you for joining us on the West Coast Cheeseheads Podcast. We may not like the cold, but certainly still rep the green and gold. Go Pack Go. Have a great week.